Live prime time.
40-1. I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He went bogey, double, par, birdie, bogey. Thomas Dietrich's all over the place here today.
This golf course is so volatile where it can make you look like a fool in just a matter of minutes. And, you know, you look at a guy like Thomas Dietrich. You know, he's right there tied for the lead or whatever it was, like 4 or 5 over in the wink of an eye.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
Despite me being a Yankee fan, I think Joe would deserve the label as Aaron Judge's biggest fan, not through any bias, but just through the amount of money that he's made anybody who's been betting on him.
I just had him for that home run, and I'm going to go back to it today. That home run coming in at plus 230. Max Fried here, while he has been strong, this is Aaron Judge.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Happy Monday to all of you watching. Thanks for tuning in to the show. We've got NBA free agency news. We've got NHL free agency news. Both leagues off and running with rumors and contracts and information and potential more, I think, coming this week too. So we will dive into all of that. We've got Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News as well on the show, and a significant signing in terms of money last night. We'll see if it means anything to the Philadelphia 76ers. More on that in just a minute. In addition, we've got Jim Santis on the show, NASCAR expert, baseball expert, and a whole lot more. We'll talk about the first half of the Major League Baseball season coming to a close very soon, and also dive into the very latest on the NASCAR circuit. So all that and a whole lot more. And of course, the off season for the NBA is basically the season for the NBA, because here we go, talking about a lot of players that we don't even discuss over the course of the regular season or even playoffs at all. But with the money going around and the salary cap era, of course, in the NBA, you got to fill up the cap, and it looks like that's what the Philadelphia 76ers are doing here. How about this one? Paul George, a mostly anonymous player the last couple of years, let's just call it what it is going to sign a 4-year, $212 million contract to join the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, George, of course, signed with the Los Angeles Clippers, and they were trying to work out some deal, unable to work out any sign and trade, so George just leaves. The Clippers get nothing, and George now going to go to Philadelphia to try and contend up against the Boston Celtics. So yet another team for Paul George. We'll see if the results are any different. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia 76ers have also agreed to a contract extension with Tyrese Maxey. It is a max deal, 5 years, $204 million. So there you go. Maxey's going to be with Philadelphia potentially for a long time, along with Joel Embiid and now his new teammate Paul George. No question at this point, Philadelphia, in terms of odds, are moving up the board over on FanDuel, but that really doesn't mean anything, as we know. Going into the playoffs, a lot can happen, but Philadelphia, of course, feels like they got better, and they're definitely paying the price for that today. Meanwhile, the Detroit Pistons have signed Tobias Harris to a 2-year, $52 million contract. So Detroit trying to get out of the doldrums, firing their coach, spending some money. Tobias Harris, 2 years, $52 million with the Detroit Pistons. And also, one other signing to mention this morning, the Oklahoma City Thunder have struck a deal with Isaiah Hartenstein. He signs a 3-year contract. And folks, if you think that the NBA is struggling financially, Isaiah Hartenstein, folks, $87 million over 3 years. Wow, incredible numbers going on in the NBA. And, of course, we'll update you on LeBron James if anything happens during the show. LeBron James opted out. In case you missed it over the weekend, he intends to return to the Lakers, but needless to say, that has not yet happened. So we'll see. Detroit Pistons have a new head coach, and they took a guy who was a good head coach from the Cleveland Cavaliers, J.B. Bickerstaff, who had a nice season, took the team to the playoffs in a rebuild, 99 regular season wins over the last couple of years. Detroit would love that. So as Detroit works their way out of the rebuild and into playoff contention, Bickerstaff is their choice, at least for now. James Harden will sign a 2-year, $70 million contract to return to the Los Angeles Clippers. And naturally, the Clippers now lose George, so they'll have some money to spend, it would appear. But Harden's going to eat up some of that. 2 years, $70 million there. The Golden State Warriors have parted ways with Chris Paul. And Paul is going to leave to become a free agent. Did I see that Paul is signing with the San Antonio Spurs? Did I see that last night? Okay, just want to make sure of that. So no longer a free agent, and 19 season in the NBA, 9.2 points, 6.8 assists in 26 minutes. Also, Klay Thompson could be parting ways with the Golden State Warriors, although it is not official. He looks like he's talking to the Mavericks, Lakers, Clippers, and 76ers. This is all sources. This is all rumors, according to ESPN. Detroit Pistons have signed Cade Cunningham to a 5-year, $226 million maximum rookie extension. No question about it. Cunningham, one of the nice up-and-coming players in the NBA. They want to keep him in Detroit. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is leaving the Nuggets, finalizing a 3-year, $66 million deal with the Orlando Magic. Kevin Porter Jr. is returning to the NBA with the Los Angeles Clippers after a season away, reaching a plea deal in a domestic case. 24 years old, arrested on felony domestic assault charges, now returns to the Clippers and returns to the National Basketball Association. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, an underdog against the upstart Phoenix Mercury. They pick up the win, and Caitlin Clark just 1 rebound away from her first ever triple-double in the NBA. 15 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, and the Fever have gone from a team that looked like they could potentially finish in last place to all of a sudden maybe moving into playoff contention, and Caitlin Clark talked about the change. All right, now over to Major League Baseball. Let's touch on Brian Reynolds. He had his 25-game hitting streak ended with a 2-strikeout and 2-ground-out performance. Reynolds' hitting streak was the longest by a Pirate since 2023, and certainly could be in that All-Star game coming up next month in Texas. This month in Texas, actually. It's July 1st. Last night, a cycle hit for the first time in Major League Baseball this season. It's rookie Wyatt Langford. The Rangers on Sunday Night Baseball defeated the Orioles by a final of 11-2. Langford, one of the favorites to win the American League Rookie of the Year, is certainly making his case. Major League Baseball yesterday also makes an announcement. Some new rules and format to the Home Run Derby. It's going to be a little bit quicker. And also, they're going to weed this down to make it go faster in the first round from 8 to 4, and then they reseed the players based on the amount of home runs they hit, one of which players will be Gunnar Henderson, who announced that he is participating in the event last night. The Yankees defeated the Blue Jays 8-1 yesterday. Juan Soto, of course, having a little bit of an injury issue, but he was cleared as his hand felt better and talked about him rejoining the lineup yesterday. All right, now over to the NHL. Let's talk about the Florida Panthers. Free agency has started for them. One day after their free agency starts, it looks like they're keeping some of the players who led them to a championship. Alexander Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, and Sam Reinhart all going to be back with the team next season, as Reinhart and the Panthers have agreed to a 8-year, $69 million contract. Incredible numbers for Reinhart, who was so good for the Panthers in their championship yesterday. Over on the PGA Tour, well, not the biggest of names, but Cam Davis ends up winning the Rocket Mortgage Classic for the second time with a 2-under-70 on Sunday, and it gives him a one-shot victory on the final hole, and actually the British Open starts in less than 2 weeks. Judge Bellingham's heroic play helped England edge Slovakia 2-1 yesterday, as England fans in Wembley celebrate Jude Bellingham's late equalizer against Slovakia at Euro 2024. Bellingham rescued England from crashing out of Euro 2024 with a stunning 95th minute equalizer. Harry Kane's early extra time winner sent the team to a 2-1 victory. And also Spain routes Georgia to set up Germany in the quarterfinals 4-1 yesterday. And of course, Spain has been fantastic in Euro 2024. We'll see if that continues right, so here's what we're going to do. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Matt Lutovsky of Sporting News. The NBA free agency and NHL free agency are off and running. Right now, it would appear the biggest stories coming out of the NBA are the Los Angeles Clippers and Philadelphia 76ers making significant changes to their upcoming roster. What will it mean potentially for the odds in 2024 in the NBA? And also, could it mean that a couple of players who are still out there either go to Los Angeles, meaning the Clippers, or even the Lakers? And what does it mean for the future of the 76ers in the East as they try and compete with the world champion Boston Celtics? We'll touch on that and a whole lot more on this edition of NewsWire. So stay with us, as we'll be back after these quick messages right after this.
Nashville, help me welcome to the stage the captain of Crushers GC and the 2024 U.S. Open champion, Bryson DeChambeau!
Gosh, I'm trying to hold it in right now. The support's been overwhelming.
Tickets for Nashville this week are nearly sold out. We are calling this the Bryson effect.
I mean, with how much support we have out here, and it's just the start, that's a testament to what Live Golf is and what the Crushers are doing, what our team's doing, and what we're trying to do for Nashville and places all across the globe. So super excited for the future of Live.
To at least walk down the last few holes, or at least the last hole, knowing that it was pretty much done. It's never safe, but very proud of everybody, and of course Tiro. I mean, what a week to get his first win in a few years and win by 6 in an absolutely dominant performance the way he did. It was absolutely incredible, so I couldn't be happier for him.
Certainly with not winning for 3.5 years, you kind of naturally question if you can do it again. So I'm just proud of myself to be able to get through that and play the way I did.
Matt Lutovsky joins us from Sporting News. The NBA's free agency is off and running. We're going to break down some of the deals and some of the things happening. And Matt, thanks again for coming on the show. I do find it a little bit comical, NBA free agency to a bit. I maintain that NBA's free agency is more popular than the actual season because we end up talking about these players getting mega deals that we just rarely talk about during the regular season. And speaking of which, a player we rarely talk about in the playoffs, and that is Paul George. I mean, I guess Philadelphia 76ers fans are like excited because the team is spending, and on paper, I guess they get better here. But Paul George, at the end of this deal, I mean, they're going to be looking at this going, wait a second, we're paying this guy 34, 35 years old, $50 million? I mean, he's not LeBron James. So I find the entire free agency of the NBA sort of fascinating because we tend to focus on players somehow that have such little impact on the game themselves. Now, Paul George could have some. I get that. But as we talk about some of these players today, it is stunning to me to see the kind of contracts given out to players that you never hear anything about.
Yeah, it's definitely silly season. I always, the first year or the first day of NBA free agency every year is jarring. No matter what, even to basketball fans, I think it's jarring. You know, football, the money's not totally guaranteed, easy to overlook those contracts. Baseball, a lot of times the top guys, the years are longer, or I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like they at least kind of make sense for how much money's getting thrown around. Basketball, yeah, you have Isaiah Hartenstein getting $87 million over 3 years, and like I said, even casual fans are going, "Wait, how much?" Like we know that Isaiah Hartenstein's very good, and he's going to be an impact player for the Thunder, and that's a huge pickup for the Thunder. That still seems like too much money. But you know, you mentioned specifically Paul George. You know, he was very good last year. It was almost a 50-40-90 guy. Plays great defense. He's exactly the type of player that the Sixers need. Fits in perfectly when you have an MVP big man, when you have a great up-and-coming, guard, combo guard, point guard type player like Maxey. Perfect player. You give him the big money. This is your chance. You have a relatively short window just because you don't know how long Embiid's going to be healthy. Obviously, we saw him get hurt last year and impact a team that was very good and looked like one of the contenders in the East. There's always going to be doubts about him till they do it, but there was doubts about Jason Tatum and the Celtics until they did it. And now they've done it, and they're playoff, postseason front runners now every year because they've done it. And that's just how it works in the NBA. So I get it from the Sixers standpoint, but you're right. It is a lot of money to be giving to a guy who's 34 and is going to be 38 plus at the time this deal ends, a guy who's already injury prone and has missed key games all throughout the past few years with the Clippers. It just doesn't seem like this deal is going to end well. But if they even get one healthy, really good year from Paul George and everything clicks at the same time and Embiid stays healthy, this is a championship caliber squad, depending on what else they fill in around them. So it's just sort of one of those necessary evils in the NBA. You want to compete, you're going to need to make moves like this.
Yeah, no, I understand. And look, Philadelphia fans are frustrated and they want to see the team get to a championship, maybe potentially win a championship. So they got to spend the money. Now, where should it go? Now, this is wise money spent on Tyrese Maxey, because of course Maxey was fantastic for Philadelphia last year. In fact, when Joel Embiid went out, they didn't win a ton, but they continued to play well because Maxey played so well. So he gets a 5-year, $204 million maximum contract extension. And look, this is one that makes sense to me, Matt, when I look at it, because I saw how well Philadelphia played with him leading the show. So this is really good news for them. It seems like they just wanted to build this like 3-player core, similar like the Heat did several years ago. It's been very hard to match by a lot of these teams trying to do that. But I give the credit to Philly for that one.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, when you look at sort of that big three era, that seems to be a little bit bygone. It seems like now, especially with the new salary cap rules, it's going to be much tougher to do that. And even if you do it, do you have enough depth to really get through in the playoffs? Well, I think a little bit of the difference with a team like Philly is one of your players is one of the best players in the NBA. And that sort of elevates your game. And Maxey, even though that contract is huge and it seems ridiculous, it's still not quite as much as this is going to sound insane. It might not be as much as he really deserves when he plays out the length of this contract. And I'm saying that based on the ridiculousness of NBA contracts. I mean, if he continues to play at a really high all NBA level, you're going to look back at that contract and say, that's not a terrible deal. And so they're kind of getting him. Yes, it's a max, and they're still paying him a ton, but they're kind of still getting him at the lower end of his career while getting the other guys at sort of the tail ends of their career. So like I said, I don't think the window's open for very long, but if the things come together right in the right year, they're going to be a tough out.
All right, real quick, Matt, we've got a couple of future Hall of Famers signing contracts. Westbrook opts into his contract with the Clippers. This is probably going to be his last year, I would guess, in the NBA. Chris Paul, we've said that last year, we'll say it again this year, 1-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs. Who do you think has more of an impact on their team this year? I know that Paul got more money, but it seems like Westbrook is just comfortable in LA.
Yeah, for sure. And they're the better team, although the Spurs are an up-and-coming team, very interesting team, and they have an absolute, freak generational guy on their team. I think he's exactly what that team needs. I don't know how much juice he has left. That's the only problem. But that's what they really lacked last year, was a real point guard. And Chris Paul, of course, is a consummate point guard. He can from all accounts, wear on his teammates. But I don't think that's a bad thing when you're dealing with a young team like the Spurs. And I think he'll be great for Victor Wembanyama's development, which is really what it's all about right now. But I think you're right about Westbrook with the Clippers. They get James Harden back. It just feels like more of the same from the Clippers this year. That's not a horrible thing, but it does feel like they're a little bit of limbo as they open that new arena.
Yeah, some rumors about him being traded too. So maybe that's the whole idea behind this. We'll see. $4 million, not a lot for a future Hall of Famer. All right, Matt, thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
When it comes to betting on sports, injuries matter, and Sports Injury Central has you covered all year long with expert injury analysis and injury-based picks for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Our former pro sports doctors have unmatched experience to analyze every injury so you know the impact of the player, team, and their upcoming matchup. Whether it's articles, podcasts, player insights, or our patented injury scores, Sports Injury Central will help you keep up with your fantasy team and make more informed wagers. So make sure you follow Sports Injury Central and gain an edge at SixScore.com.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Time for the Sports Grid at Sound Off. Wouldn't you know, we begin with the National Basketball Association, the big signing in the NBA last night. Paul George, over $50 million a season, is now going to take his talents to Philadelphia from the Los Angeles Clippers. I guess the big question remains, is that enough to get Philadelphia over the top and get them potentially into a position at least to play for the East Finals and play for an NBA championship? So we thought we would check in on the subject with our social media correspondent. Christian DeBlock talks about the big signing overnight.
Paul George is a 76er. The 76ers have a golden opportunity to rise up the ranks in the Eastern Conference. When healthy, Joel Embiid is no doubt a top 5 player in the game. Tyrese Maxey, one of the best scoring guards in the Eastern Conference, is coming off his first All-Star season. If you add Paul George to that, with his two-way ability, it's going to be difficult to stop them. Adding quality supplemental pieces will be important, but if the 76ers want to compete with the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference, getting George is a risk worth taking. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks very much, Christian. I have a feeling in the next few days we'll be having a new subject for Christian to talk about, and that is the era of the Golden State Warriors slowly but surely coming to an end. And one of the big chips to fall is it looks like Klay Thompson has played his last game in a Golden State Warriors uniform. Now, all of those championships that the Warriors won couldn't have been done without Klay Thompson, who was absolutely phenomenal. Remember, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. I mean, this was the best team in the NBA for several years. But, of course, Thompson, coming off an incredible season, also was injured and was forced to miss an entire year. The Warriors at that time did take care of him and got him paid so he can stay playing with Golden State before it looks like the time has now come to move on. And Thompson recounted the past as to what happened when he was injured and the Warriors' decision to keep him around.
Oh, man. Well, 2019. Well, could you imagine if they didn't pay me after I got hurt? That would have been really bad. Went to 5 straight finals? You blew your knee out? Yeah, sorry. So, no, I mean, that was very nice of them. I mean, I try. I mean, every year I give my best effort. And the ownership group has been great. I have nothing but positive things to say about them. They treat us like they treat us with great respect and do all the little things for us to do our jobs at the highest level. So it's been, I mean, I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, it's up to them, but at the end of the day, whatever happens, it's all gravy. It's been such a freaking special run.
Now, again, that interview happened as soon as Klay Thompson had his exit interview after the season. Still remains to be seen if he'll return to Golden State. If you're following the rumor mill, which is, of course, what we do this time of the year, we would see that most of the teams that are involved in the Thompson sweepstakes, so to speak, are not named Golden State. So it would appear he'll probably have a new destination. All right, Simone Biles has a new destination. She's headed back to Paris, a place she's been before as far as the Olympics are concerned. She qualified yet again for the Olympic Games at 27 years old. You think that that's young? It's not in the Olympic era. Biles talked about yesterday qualifying again and heading to the Olympics.
Another one. So much has happened since Tokyo, but what led you back to this point, back to another Olympics?
Yeah, being in a good mental spot, seeing my therapist every Thursday, it's kind of religious for me, so that's why I'm here today.
It's hard not to come back to when you have all these people cheering you on. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but at 27 years old, you are the oldest female American gymnast since the 1950s to head to the Olympics. How did you know that you had more to give this sport?
Yeah, I knew I wasn't done after the performances in Tokyo, so just getting back in the gym and working hard and trusting the process with Cecile and Laurent, I knew I'd be back.
Imagine retiring in your sport as an athlete at the age of 23, which is essentially what she could have done at the time. It's crazy, but that is like the prime age, 19, 20, 21 for a lot of these gymnasts. And this is going to be one of the great stories, I think, coming up at the Olympics this summer. So congrats to her for qualifying yet again. All right, coming up next, our friend Mike Mazzeo is in the house from Legal Sports Report. We'll touch on sports wagering topics, including the latest on the feeling as to what's going on in the National Hockey League. That's coming up next.
Nashville, help me welcome to the stage the captain of Crushers GC and the 2024 U.S. Open champion, Bryson DeChambeau!
Gosh, I'm trying to hold it in right now. The support's been overwhelming.
Tickets for Nashville this week are nearly sold out. We are calling this the Bryson effect.
I mean, with how much support we have out here, and it's just the start, that's a testament to what LIV Golf is and what the Crushers are doing, what our team's doing, and what we're trying to do for Nashville and places all across the globe. So super excited for the future of LIV.
It was nice to at least walk down the last few holes, or at least the last hole, knowing that it was pretty much done. It's never safe, but very proud of everybody, and of course Tiro. I mean, what a week to get his first win in a few years and win by 6 in an absolutely dominant performance the way he did. It was absolutely incredible, so I couldn't be happier for him.
Certainly with not winning for 3.5 years, you kind of naturally question if you can do it again. So I'm just proud of myself to be able to get through that and play the way I did.
Welcome back to NewsWire. So the NHL calendar is very interesting, and in fact, we're seeing a report this morning from one of the insiders who covers the NHL that there could be a potential change in schedule, an 84-game schedule, wrapping up the finals before June, because just so much happens in the NHL so quickly. I mean, the NBA, it happens fast, but as we bring in Mike Mazzeo, the NHL, I mean, this is like super fast. You win a championship, a team's having a parade. In the interim, before the parade, there's even a draft. They had the draft. People forgot about that this past week. And as soon as that's over, you have free agency too. Dare I say it's faster as far as the transactional period than it is in the National Basketball Association. And because of that, Gary Bettman is forced to the podium. Leads me to all of that. And Mike, aside from the potential change in schedule story, the big story coming out of the draft wasn't the draft as much as it was Gary Bettman talking about sports betting and some of these scandals that have been going on. What did you learn from watching that? And I guess long way of saying thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Craig. Great time here with NBA and NHL free agency. Transactions going wild. One of the most fun times of the year, I think, at least for myself. Thankfully, don't have to report on all the transactions, but just watching it as a fan is spectacular. So to get to the NHL story, Gary Bettman talked to CNBC right before the NHL draft, which, of course, ironically, was held in Las Vegas at the Sphere. We know how much the NHL, like the other leagues, has embraced gambling. We see the Las Vegas Golden Knights win a Stanley Cup and move to Vegas. And so you see, Circa and the Blackhawks. Circa is going to be on the Blackhawks uniforms. This is a league like the others that has embraced sports betting. And then with that, there's obviously been a ton of scandals. Bettman saying, like the other owners and commissioners, as a result of legal betting, we're able to monitor this stuff better. So when Shane Pinto is suspended for 41 games, and we unfortunately still don't know exactly why due to the NHLPA negotiated settlement, at least, we know that he did not bet on hockey, as Bettman reiterated. That is an absolute no-no for players, staff, front office, any sort of, organization people. But he did apparently, according to Bettman, not adhere to rules that the sports books have in place. And we know that there's been reporting from the Canadian press about a third party potentially being involved in this. So I asked an NHL spokesperson what exactly, is there a list or something like that? And they just said, you can't bet on hockey, and, whether it was something with a sports book account or something like that, I don't know. But, Bettman is happy with where things are. He said the education programs are in place to hopefully not have this happen again. Like the other leagues, you hope that that's the case and that these players know not to do this stuff. We know in baseball, it's posted all over the clubhouse. But yet if you have one guy doing it, it makes everybody else look bad. And if that guy is a franchise player, Thankfully it wasn't Ohtani, but if it is that kind of player or it's a team-wide thing, this whole industry could come crashing down. So they can't afford to have that happen. You hope that Pinto learned his lesson. Seems like he's going to now maybe leave Ottawa, according to Pierre LeBrun. He might get out of it, get a trade. So that was a hot story involving a player that is involved in gambling infractions, unfortunately. And so, this is a storyline that isn't going anywhere, and you hope the leagues have cleaned it up and you don't have that major scandal that could take this whole industry down.
Yeah, and again, whether it's a marquee player or a role player, it simply doesn't matter. We're talking about it, and because we're talking about it, it's a subject, and Bettman's forced to address it, as is the commissioners of the NBA, the NHL, and the NFL as well. All right, so sports betting in California, that's the topic for our next discussion here, Mike. And, certainly a lot of what's going on in California is trying to emulate or mimic what happened in Florida, which is the Seminole tribe took over sports betting and now have exclusivity for a number of years. It just doesn't seem it's that simple in California, Mike, where I'm sure the tribes would love to have it, but there's a lot that's going to happen before this gets legalized.
Right, Craig. So there was the Florida sports betting ruling where West Flagler's challenge was turned down by the Supreme Court. They decided they would not take this case. And so there's a question of, okay, now that this Seminole model is in place for 30 years, is this hub and spoke model something that other states can emulate? And everyone obviously looks at California because if it legalizes, eventually it could be the number 1 sports betting market in the country. And there was a financial analyst who said, okay, because of this ruling, it seems like California can just change its compact and not have to go to the ballot initiative, so not have the public vote on it. They can just amend the compact, and that'll give sports betting to California. But I talked to a tribal attorney, Scott Crowell, who has been with the tribes doing gaming for decades, and he said that's not the case. I also talked to an industry source who reiterated the same thing, that there's no real shortcuts here. They're still going to have all parties moving in the same direction. It's not going to be FanDuel and DraftKings versus the tribes. It's going to be tribal-led, and then you hope that all the operators get on board. The major politicians like Governor Newsom, who have a very good relationship with the tribes, everybody pulling in the same direction, and then you still have to turn a public that voted 82% no on this Proposition 27 in 2022, which would legalize online sports betting. So there's a lot of moving parts here. The tribes with 110, you've got the big tribes, the small tribes, the major gaming tribes, tribes that get the revenue sharing from gaming, that don't participate, they're in rural areas. There's a lot of parties that need to get on the same page, or at least most of them need to get on the same page. And so I think we're miles away. James Siva of CNIGA, the chair, said in a recent podcast with Victor Rocha that he would not commit to 2026 for California sports betting at this point. That's obviously the next time they could get something done. So I think there's a lot here. You hope that California sports betting gets done, but the steps still need to, fall into place as they would have before this ruling in Florida.
Yeah, I would agree, and I don't think that any two states are the same. And we've seen this play out all over the country when states get legalized. It's not like two states do it at once. There's just a lot that goes into the requirement there. All right, speaking of another state, let's head over to Massachusetts and talk about the latest for Ballybet. Last week on the show, Mike, we had, of course, some guest contributors from Legal Sports Report talking about how Ballybet's launch in July seems to be delayed. And look, there's some serious questions, I think, just generally speaking, about some of these operators that are not named, FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM. Is Ballybet one of those that we have to wonder what the future lies at this point?
Yeah, Craig, so I agree with you. I think, Ballybet actually, our Sam McQuillan is on that Massachusetts meeting. Just minutes ago, Ballybet was approved and will launch in Massachusetts tomorrow. So that update is here. Ballybet's the 7th operator in Massachusetts, joins DraftKings, FanDuel, the legacy casinos, MGM, Caesars, and then the newcomers, Fanatics and ESPN Bet. Yeah, Ballybet just really hasn't done much in other states, barely 1% to less than 1% market share and revenue share in the other handful of states it's in. In New York, it has not done well. It had rebranded its app and kind of updated its app. That kept it out of Massachusetts for. This Massachusetts market's been open for 16 months already. So the other operators have had a head start. We've seen DraftKings and FanDuel pretty much dominate in every state with around 70 to 80% market share and handle share. So yeah, I think they're behind the 8 ball. Certainly their investors have talked about get out of this. Soo Kim, their CEO chairman, has said it's good we're offering this. We're maybe more of a casino brand, but it's good that we can offer this to our customers. So I guess that's the way they're looking at it. I don't expect them to make much of a dent. They have the deal with Diamond. That seems like FanDuel is going to take that over. That transaction's pending. But, yeah, I mean, what's the future for Ballybet? It doesn't seem that great, but they're going to take a shot here in Massachusetts, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, getting a small piece of the market share is better than getting none, I guess. It just comes down to the amount of money they have to advertise and give out some promo dollars to acquire some of those people who have not yet signed up to bet on sports. Mike, great to catch up with you here on NewsWire. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Thank you.
All right, Mike Mazzeo from Legal Sports Report, following us on all the sports gambling news, notes, and information. And by the way, all the things we talk about with Mike and our other guest contributors can be found over at LegalSportsReport.com. Coming up next here on the show, Jim Sannes is watching each and every NASCAR race on Sunday. We'll dive into that and also talk about the latest futures in Major League Baseball, the surprises and the disappointments in baseball. Coming up next here on NewsWire.
Nashville, help me welcome to the stage the captain of Crushers GC and the 2024 U.S. Open champion, Bryson DeChambeau!
Gosh, I'm trying to hold it in right now. The support's been overwhelming.
Tickets for Nashville this week are nearly sold out. We are calling this the Bryson effect.
I mean, with how much support we have out here, and it's just the start, that's a testament to what Live Golf is and what the Crushers are doing, what our team's doing, and what we're trying to do for Nashville and places all across the globe. So super excited for the future of Live.
Nice to at least walk down the last few holes, or at least the last hole, knowing that it was pretty much done. It's never safe, but very proud of everybody, and of course Tiro. I mean, what a week to get his first win in a few years and win by 6 in an absolutely dominant performance the way he did. It was absolutely incredible, so I couldn't be happier for him.
Certainly with not winning for 3.5 years, you kind of naturally question if you can do it again. So I'm just proud of myself to be able to get through that and play the way I did.
Welcome back to NewsWire. One time when we have Jim Sannes on the show, I've talked about this. If you probably have not seen, Jim's been busy, hasn't been with us in a while. But one of these times, I've always threatened Jim that I'm going to bring him on, and I'm going to go completely off script and talk about a sport to see if he could break it down. Like I'm thinking pickleball or cricket or something like that. I'm guessing that Jim could do it, though. Like if anybody in this world can do it, it is Jim. You literally can throw anything at this man, and he can come back and give you analysis on it. So that's a pretty high compliment for you, Jim, and thank you again for coming on the show.
You named the 2 where I'm 0 for 2, Craig. So we got to get a third in there. You know, can we squeeze in some Formula One maybe? I don't know. I can't do pickleball or cricket. I tried with cricket and it was over my head. So maybe next time.
Wow. Yeah, no, we won't. I won't do that to you. At least not today. We'll start off with baseball, and then we'll get to NASCAR. Okay, so let's start off with this. We're doing the biggest surprises and the biggest disappointments of the baseball season. Maybe the biggest surprise of all is over on FanDuel that the Orioles are not the favorite to win the division, despite being right there and looking as good or not better than the Yankees. I mean, this is kind of crazy to me here that the Yankees are minus 250 and the Orioles are plus 175. Like, what kind of tax is this on the Yankees here? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think it's both a tax on the Yankees and also kind of like some skepticism, and I think that's justified around the Orioles pitching. And I think the question that we have to have here, Craig, is what do they do at the trade deadline to address that? And I'm not talking like just rotation. I think their bullpen could use some addressing too. And it's wild what they've done despite that. It's because their offense is insane. If you look at each team's active roster, the Orioles actually lead the league in WRC plus right now. And it seems like every week there's some new exciting young prospect they call up. And sure, it doesn't always work out, but like you give yourself chances at finding the next Gunnar Henderson and stuff like that when you've got so many guys in the pipeline who can have upside that they've got. So I think that what they've done so far is impressive. And there is the potential for more should they be able to address the rotation in some way. Obviously, it's been tough for them there with all the injuries they've had. They've had to have some guys. You know, Albert Suarez, when he was in the bullpen, was awesome, and I wanted to see what we could do there. But obviously, they had their need in the rotation, so got to push him back there. And I kind of want to see what they can do. Can they add more depth in that rotation? Can they shift some guys who are in the rotation right now into be more specialized role players kind of thing? I think there's potential there, but you also kind of want to see it. So they've been a huge surprise to me, primarily with the offense. You know, I think we had high expectations, but to see them do this is just super impressive. And I want to see what their upside is if they can add something, anything, at least something for that rotation, for the bullpen to shore things up. Because if they can just get something out of that, their potential is, I mean, it's their potential is World Series champion.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that the Astros are kind of the model for the Orioles because Mike Elias is running this. And they tend to be really calculated as far as the players that they get. And what's even more fascinating, Jim, if you go back and you look at some of the players that Houston got and some of the farm system players that they traded, even though they got a lot of rentals, they really didn't give up a lot. And it seems like that's kind of the way the Orioles want to do this is like, we'll get your rentals, but we're just not giving up our best players here. So I don't know if that's a recipe for a trade deadline success, but I just think the Orioles are going to operate that way going forward. Let's hit real quick on Judge. A new prop has appeared over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the 60 home run prop. You don't see this that often. He's plus 195 to hit more than 60 home runs or 60 plus, and then 63 is plus 420. Generally speaking, I just always bet against these, Jim, just because these are human beings. It's baseball, and you know, you're one pinky away from like missing 5 games. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm not wishing that, but that's usually the way that I approach this.
And I think that makes a lot of sense too. And that's why, to me, when I'm looking at those numbers, like they're pretty fair. I think you'd always kind of hope there would be a no option just because you can kind of be more sure that you're getting a fair number on both sides. So for me, when I see markets like that, my general like working theory is if I can't get a no option, I'm going to be more skeptical about betting the yes option. That's true for a lot of markets too. It's not just for things like this, but I kind of want the no option to ensure that I'm getting a fair number. With Judge specifically, though, he's playing in a great park. It's going to be warmer in New York in the summer months than it has been so far, and he's done what he's been doing. So with him, I always get frustrated, Craig, because I'll pull up like, you know, the Yankees betting odds at FanDuel Sportsbook, and you pull up to hit a home run number, and he's always like plus 200. You know, in a tough matchup, he might be plus 250. Right. It's insane because it's like my brain can't justify getting there, even though I know it's probably fine value. So he's frustrating to me. I understand if you want to bet the 60 plus or 63 plus, but like, it's always tough for me mentally as a bettor to really pull the trigger on that for the things that you mentioned, but also because I kind of want the no option more often than not to have the ability to bet the no option. I might not take the no option, but I want it to be there to kind of ensure I'm getting a fair price.
Yeah, and one of your other surprises, of course, is Cleveland. But for the sake of time, let's go to your disappointments. For you, that is the Braves, is my understanding. Yeah. But, Jim, we got a long way to go here with the Braves. They're still going to make the postseason, no?
Right, and I think that's kind of the reason I wanted to talk about them here, Craig, is because they're disappointments so far, but that doesn't mean they will be one when the season wraps up. Because you look at this team, the biggest weakness has been the offense. And you could say, okay, it's because Acuna's out and he's not going to come back. You know, they're not going to get better. But you look at the talent on this team. they're still pretty loaded offensively, and there's always the potential they could add a bat at the deadline. Like, I don't think we've seen the best of Ozzie Albies so far. Austin Riley has not had his like patented hot streak where he has like 16 home runs in a 3-game span. That's going to happen at some point too. So I think that there's potential there for that offense to improve. And once that does happen, I think we're going to see things get a lot better for them. So they've been a disappointment so far, but I still like the ceiling on this Braves team.
Joey Logano wins the Ally 400 yesterday, and I know a big one coming up for you this week too.
Yeah, it's the Chicago Street Race, the second time they've been there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Shane Van Gisbergen won last year. Pretty chaotic race. We want to keep an eye on Ty Gibbs this weekend. He's looked pretty good so far on road courses this year, and I like younger drivers at a new course. Better ability to adapt. So Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, the younger road course ringers, those are the guys I'm going to have my eyes on as I'm out in Chicago on the streets this week.
Well, have fun and enjoy, and we'll see you again soon. We'll talk some NASCAR as the season continues. Thanks again for coming on, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. I'll be sure to have pickleball prep for next time just to be safe.
a little, I don't know. We'll figure. Women's hockey? Can you break that one down? You can do it all.
Nashville, help me welcome to the stage the captain of Crushers GC and the 2024 U.S. Open champion, Bryson DeChambeau!
Gosh, I'm trying to hold it in right now. The support's been overwhelming.
Tickets for Nashville this week are nearly sold out. We are calling this the Bryson effect.
I mean, with how much support we have out here, and it's just the start, that's a testament to what Live Golf is and what the Crushers are doing, what our team's doing, and what we're trying to do for Nashville and places all across the globe. So super excited for the future of Live.
Nice to at least walk down the last few holes, or at least the last hole, knowing that it was pretty much done. It's never safe, but very proud of everybody, and of course Tiro. I mean, what a week to get his first win in a few years and win by 6 in an absolutely dominant performance the way he did. It was absolutely incredible, so I couldn't be happier for him.
Certainly with not winning for 3.5 years, you kind of naturally question if you can do it again. So I'm just proud of myself to be able to get through that and play the way I did.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. As we get ready to wrap up the show here for this Monday, I would anticipate we'll have a lot more news tomorrow from the NBA and, of course, NHL free agency. But right now, a ton going on in terms of soccer as well. That's just one of the topics we will hit on here as we wrap up our show. It's time now for some last licks. Well, we have heard of people flying drones over stadiums before. Yes, we have. I'm not sure that we've heard of this one. 21-year-old man arrested for climbing onto the roof at a soccer stadium, Dortmund, at BVB Stadium in Dortmund during Germany's last 16 match against Denmark at Euro 24. He was arrested. He went to the top of the stadium and was asked why he did it. Why did you go to the top of the stadium? Take pictures, take video. Guy says, 21, by the way, keep in mind, we don't know if alcohol was involved, but it said that he wanted a better view. That's it. No more, no less. So, look, I understand it. I get, and look, he's going to spend some time, of course, in jail. In fact, the quote was, UEFA would like to commend the police, stadium, and local authorities for their cooperation in the incident involving an individual arrested by the police on the stadium roof. Now, there are a couple of questions here. One we got answered. He wanted to get a better view. The other question that has not yet been answered by UEFA is how he got there. They still can't figure out how this guy got all the way up to the roof, got through security, and was able to take video and pictures. Needless to say, I think there'll be a little bit more security with that. By the way, more of a risk for this individual, I think, than anybody else there at the stadium, but kind of strange and probably shouldn't happen. Something else that doesn't happen in Major League Baseball ever, by the way. You talk about something that you never see. It's a pitcher hitting in baseball. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Who is that guy? That is Luis Castillo of the Seattle Mariners. Castillo was forced to hit in the game yesterday because the designated hitter, Mitch Garver, was replaced in the game and then couldn't return. So that means the pitcher has to take that spot. So what did Castillo do? It was his first at-bat since 2021. Remember, he used to be with the Reds. He has some experience hitting. But he basically stood up there at the plate, as any pitcher these days would probably do, outside of a bunt. Take strike one, take strike two, and take strike three, and go back to the mound. Folks, you're not going to see pitchers hitting anymore unless it's this extreme situation. Indeed, that is what happened yesterday with the Seattle Mariners. And given the fact there's so many injuries in baseball to pitchers too, I just don't think you're ever going to see pitchers hitting for purpose ever again. Well, we got the news over the weekend. Good news for competitive eaters and good news for Joey Chestnut. Now, folks, don't get too excited here. If you're going to Coney Island for the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest on July 4th, you are not going to see Joey Chestnut participate on July 4th. But what you will see is him participate in a different event in Texas. He's participating against soldiers in El Paso. And he says, quote, "Bring me your best 4 eaters, and I'll take them down combined." Now, for those of you who are not familiar, Joey Chestnut cannot participate this year in the hot dog eating contest in Coney Island because he is supporting a vegan cause for hot dogs, and he does not support Nathan's, I guess. And so generally speaking, you kind of got to understand it. But at least you'll still get to see him compete in a hot dog eating contest. It is called the Pop Goes the Fort. That is the hot dog eating contest. By the way, that's always fun to watch on July 4th for those of you who are interested. I just don't know who's participating this year, and I have no idea who's going to end up winning. So maybe we'll end up having a new champion there. All right, that will do it for our show today. As a reminder, we'll be right back here for our next edition of NewsWire. But let me give you the rest of the schedule here. Coming up, we've got the early line. That is followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern, Game Time Decisions at 6, In-Game Live Prime Time at 9, and then Gabe at Sports Rage at 10 p.m. Eastern. So that is the deal the rest of the day here at SportsGrid. You can catch me tomorrow morning for our next edition of NewsWire. And also you can catch all of our guests at their different locations, which of course Mike Mazzeo is over at Legal Sports Report. You can also follow him on social media, as well as Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. And in addition, Jim Sanis over at FanDuel and Numberfire. Thanks to our associate producer, Frank, and our producer, Michael. I'm Craig Mish. I hope you have a great rest of your day here on NewsWire. If I don't see you later today here on the shows, I'll see you tomorrow for our next edition of the show. Have a great day, everyone. See you then.